from CNN. Elon Musk said Donald Trump agreed. USAID needs to be shut down. This may be one of the biggest stories, if it happens, of our generation. Now, the latest update from the Wall Street Journal, Marco Rubio wants USAID to undergo overhaul, backs off of full shutdown. Secretary of State plans to reorganize the foreign assistance agency that Elon Musk and DOGE are pushing to eliminate. USAID. It's not USAID. There's no aid. Shout out to Mike Benz. It's the U.S. Agency for International Development. And what they basically do is they funnel money to various activist organizations around the world. That's literally what they do. The accusation, I believe RFK Jr. talked about this, was that USAID was funding revolutionary groups in Ukraine to overthrow the government in the Maidan protests, culminating in the ousting of, I believe it was Viktor Yanukovych. Was his name Victor? Maybe it was, I don't know. Yanukovych was the president's name. Was it? It was Victor? Oh, okay, there you go. So basically, the accusations, USAID is basically a CIA front for U.S. soft coups around the world. A lot of this money, this is crazy. Here's the accusation. U.S. government funds USAID. That money goes to various NGOs and activist groups around the world. Those various NGOs give money to various other organizations, which somehow that money finds its way into the election campaigns of politicians. This may be the system by which the deep state keeps its cronies in office indefinitely because you can't go up against them. They're basically getting money from the government. They're taking your money and they're paying themselves to run again. How do you compete with that? If they get shut down, it's going to be massive. Either way, if information comes out from DOGE, from Elon Musk and his crew, about what they've been doing, and we uncover serious malfeasance, I think it's a strong possibility. This could be massive, like one of the biggest scandals in U.S. history.
Yeah.
Well, James O'Keefe did this whole a series of exposés going up to for Act Blue. He would go up to these old ladies' houses and ask them about if they had ever contributed, $75,000 in 16,000, donation increments, and they were finding out that Act Blue was acting as like a money laundering scheme for the Democrats. And I think this is probably part of it. I mean, this old lady, like one of them only made or she's on retirement income. So it's like just Social Security. You can't do $75,000 in a year.
Right.
And definitely anyone to make 16,000 donations in a year is like, you're really working hard just making donations itself. Mm-hmm. But this is all front. I mean, there's got to be a connection here.
I just want to shout out look. We need to get cash confirmed. We need have they confirmed who have they confirmed?
I'm gonna look right now.
Like obviously like Hegseth and stuff, but I mean of the remaining, they're delaying it. James O'Keefe went to these people's homes, as you mentioned. One of these old people, he's like, did you make $200,000 in donations to Act Blue? And they're like, what? I don't have that kind of money. And he's like, are you making 47 donations of $5, 47 donations per day of $5 to $20? And they're like, no. Some entity is using Act Blue, it appears, to funnel money through people's names that they've stolen into politicians and PACs and other people's hands. This needs to be criminally investigated. The preponderance of evidence is in front of our faces.
Yeah. So for a little context, USAID was created in the 60s by
Kennedy.
JFK.
By executive order.
Yeah, by executive order. Now, there was a bill passed, right? So the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961 was passed by Congress, which authorized the establishment of a new agency. But that isn't actually USAID. USAID is essentially a front for, like we said, for CIA. And there was a time where it was important to have USAID, and that was, when communism was a threat, right? There was a time where the domino theory was legitimate, the idea that more and more countries were going to fall to communism, that the influence of the Soviet Union was something that threatened the whole world. And so that was when USAID existed to help to influence other countries to prevent them from becoming communist by providing them with funding, providing them with help with infrastructure, and also there was the covert actions which CIA would do, which was trying to topple other governments. But it was important. But after the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991. Organizations like USAID and the like, they don't have the same the same goal anymore. There is no communism. There is not global communism in the way that it was when the Soviet Union existed. There's no effort of global communism. Now the effort for global communism comes from the UN. It comes from the NGOs that the US is actually involved with. It's not the same kind of communism. It probably would look something more like Chinese communism, where you've got markets and market communism or whatever, but it's still a top-down authoritarian government, and USAID doesn't need to do the same kind of things. And so if it's actually just turned into a money laundering operation, get rid of it. Mm-hmm. It's not something that's necessary the way that it used to be. And, DOGE is showing that
what does ultimately mean, though? Let's say that the U.S. stops engaging in these international soft coup manipulations. You guys ever hear that story? I think it's called Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
It's a book, right?
Yeah. This guy, it's a while ago, he was saying that the U.S. strategy was basically, first they go to you and they say, okay, we're going to give you a bunch of money if you do what we want you to do. If the leader says no, they say, okay, well, then we're going to manipulate your system and we're going to throw you out of power. If that fails, then they send in the wet works. They go in and remove that person. Mm-hmm. And the examples they give is like Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein. Assuming that's true, if USAID is dismantled to a great degree and the U.S. stops engaging in this, what does the world look like?
I don't know. I'm pretty pro-America. So, I do think that in the absence of the United States being the global hegemon and having the influence that it does, you end up with something like China, someone like China or possibly Russia. Russia has if you list all the countries that have the most slaves, currently Russia is number 5 or 6, right? It's a train wreck, and China's not a whole lot better. So, as much as the U.S. has problems and there is human trafficking and stuff, that's not something that the United States openly is okay with, and there are other countries where that is still okay. The U.S. is the best country in the world still, even though we have our own problems. I'm not trying to say that the U.S. is perfect and that we're completely clean. When you're a government doing government things, you're going to do bad things to people sometimes. And that's not an excuse. That's just the reality, because we live in a complex, dangerous world. But the idea of having China in that position or having Russia in that position is far worse. I mean,
well, what is the path that we're on that leads to that not being the case?
Of us not being the
everything we're seeing right now with tariffs and the potential shuttering of USAID, does that lead to a China-dominated planet, a unipolar China Communist Party, or a U.S.-dominated?
I don't think so. I think the most likely way that we end up with the Chinese dominating or with Russia dominating is if we don't take care of our economy and we allow the unfunded liabilities, the mandatory spending to blow up the dollar. I think that's the most clear and present threat to the US.
What's crazy is that for, I don't know how long it's been, 50, maybe 40 years, the U.S. economy has been extracted. We've been giving away our jobs and industry to Mexico, to Canada, and to China.
Yeah.
And this has led to the threat of nuclear annihilation with a massive superpower that is China. That didn't have to be the case.
Well, and if you look at the numbers for median household income, adjusted for inflation, we have totally plateaued. And in a lot of ways, we've gone back. When was it Nixon that finally got us closed the gold window?
Yep.
Yeah.
You could support a family off of one income. Good luck doing that now.
Well, so how does Trump make Americans have more babies?
Well, I've got a lot of thoughts on this.
Be my guest.
I don't think it works just to pay people. But one thing that Elon brought up recently that I thought was creative was in the, I think it was Bill Clinton, he did a budget cutting bill, and essentially they offered federal employees $25,000 to retire early and quit. And that $25,000 opened up the doors for us to cut even more. So you could think about it in that terms, where you give a super high baby bonus. I don't know if it'll work. I think we got to look at countries like
Texas.
Hungary that have tried a bunch of this stuff.
Yeah.
Married, 3 kids, no taxes.
I love that.
There's
And if you get divorced, you lose it.
I agree with that. But what about like a friend of mine? He actually brought this up. What about like a new Homestead Act for families? We have all this federal land, like literally, I think millions and millions and millions of acres that are just taken up by the federal government just to preserve the lands. What if you gave anyone that signed a forgivable loan after 25 years, you pledge to have children, but you have to go out there and you have to build your own home, and it's forgiven after 25 years of marriage and being open to life? I think that's an interesting idea. And it's very American, right? Westward expansion. It would decenter the power structures of these big cities, get a lot of people moving out. People want a home. They want something that they can invest in. It's empowering to them.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.